This is Her Majesty's Canadian ship Sackville, a corvette, the last of 122 of this class of ship built in Canada during World War II. She is now over 50 years old and is restored to her wartime configuration of 1944. The restoration and upkeep of this vessel is carried out by a group of volunteer trustees whose efforts have been rewarded by having the Sackville declared a Canadian memorial.
Once more the deck heaves a sigh beneath his feet on the Sackville at rest by the pier. He's carried back to those earlier days, for his memory rolls back the years, and his breast fills with pride of the mates by his side, and the saltwater sea fills his eyes. This band of brothers who he came to trust, and the life they shared under black skies, they stood ready, aye, ready. It was hell's game and peace was the prize.
So it taught you to grow up. You grew up in a big hurry, let me tell you.
In the wintertime especially, pretty miserable, very miserable. Particularly when you're making the east coast here, when you got into the continental shelf, things would start to freeze. And icing became a very real factor. Ships capsized with the ice.
It meant coming out of the mess deck with a tray, going to the galley, making your way for it, and an open deck with the seas coming over the forecastle. And you had to make it time it so you get to the galley and get your tray filled and get back to the mess deck without having salt water wash the whole thing away.
You've seen where the radio office is on there, and believe it or not, that used to have 4 or 5 inches of water in rough weather, swishing back and forth.
On a ship of this type, it was comfortable because the hammock would swing and sway with the ship, whereas your bunk would not. You'd roll off the bunk.
But it was adventure, it was comradeship, and it was hardship, no question of that. And I think that shaped the character of my generation.
They were his comrades, the youth of the land, sharing friendships and hardships untold. Red lead and bacon and strawberry jam, served on bread held together with mold. Still they worked side by side, sailed the black pit with pride. They were farm boys and lads from the towns, seeking adventure and life on the sea. But it was boredom and danger they found. Yet they stood ready, aye, ready, for whatever the fates would throw down.
But most of the attacks took place what we call in the black hole or the black pit. This is where there was no air coverage, and this is where the ships got hit. And the best thing you could do was to try to keep in your station and drop depth charges to keep the submarines down. And felt very sorry for the merchant Navy people, because they're the ones that suffered the most when their ships went down, because we couldn't stop to pick them up.
I know that the most appalling thing I've ever seen was the first tanker I saw that was torpedoed and caught fire, and it was the noise rather than the flame. The noise of that flame that scared the pants off me.
I'd be called action stations. I'd grab my life jacket, my coat, and my hip. I'd have my shoes on or my sneakers on, and I could run right away.
There's an old saying in the forces, or the Navy anyway, that if anybody gets hurt, it's not going to be you. It's going to be somebody else, maybe your buddy, but you're not going to get hurt. Of course, a lot of people were wrong.
Spray-drenched or ice-covered, wet to the bone, tossed on swells that would make the seas boil. to see hell ablaze on the top of the foam, or to swim through 2 inches of oil. Still the job must be done, and the fight must be won, so you'd stand with your feet wet in hell. But you stood your watch, and you helped turn the tide, and you knew that your mates would as well. They were ready, aye, ready, and their valor no story can tell.
Suddenly we came upon a submarine. I increased to full speed. We were going pretty fast anyway. She just got her conning tower low enough that it escaped the bow and in fact escaped the keel. We had a depth charge pattern set to explode at 50 feet. And when I ordered that, just at the moment I thought it would catch her, it did.
And a very tense moment down there, because the explosions come, the ship lifts up the water, the stern lifts, the wheel clears the water sometimes, and it just spins, and you settle back in again. You don't know whether those explosions are from torpedoes, from your own depth charges. Those at times are very, very unpleasant down there. But we had to go through it.
Shoulder to shoulder, they challenged the foe, leaving slackers to crisscross the sea, bringing relief to a war-beaten shore, never knowing what future they'd see. With their lives on the line, from torpedoes and mines, fighting wolf packs from under the sea, facing the danger with hearts full of fire, as they fought for the right to be free. Always ready, aye, ready, met the challenge, whatever the need.
The corvette was to Canada's Navy what the battleships and so on of the big navies were to Britain and the United States. It was our type of ship.
Sackville had been turned over to an Institute of Oceanography, and it was fitted out with all kinds of scientific boxes on the upper deck and workspaces and things for the scientists. It was sitting around, and it was made available to us by the Navy for $1. This is how the Naval Officers Association of Canada came to own the ship. Once we had the ship, a small number of people gathered together and voluntarily worked on the ship in various places. And in 1983 and 84, it was just about ready for the 75th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Navy in 1985.
Sackville represents the core of Canada's wartime Navy, and I hope will remain for succeeding generations as a reminder of all those who went to sea in her and in her sister ships to defend us at sea. In a very special way, she embodies our naval tradition, and as all the evidence makes indisputably clear, somebody up there likes her.
Since then, the restoration has gone on almost continually until now. All of the outside fittings and everything are more or less the same as they were during the original ship, and we are now almost completed the inside of the ship. The mess decks, to the best of our ability, are restored as closely as possible to the way they were when they had 26 men in that forward mess deck there.
It's a wonderful experience to be able to come back down the ship 50 years later and think it's the same ship that I joined as a young man back in 1941.
Well, Sackville is not only available to ex-veterans like myself, but also to interested public. We have about 50,000 people a year go through the ship. Every year we consistently get that many people.
And it serves that job to show people what it was like in the Navy in World War II.
Once more his eyes show the light of his youth as he thinks of the victories they won. He shares a pride and he holds to the truth that together they got the job done. And his spirits give rise, for he sees in new eyes the tradition and pride of the past. Brave men and women now answer the call, and the virtue of courage will last. It's still ready, aye, ready, for the future will rise to the task. It's still ready, aye, ready, for the future will rise to the task.
I'm very glad that we got the Sackville, because she's maritime built, and she's the last corvette. She survived all the rest, you know, and she's my ship.